Hey guys, tonight we're taking a journey, not to a sprawling modern city like Los Angeles or a bustling financial district in New York, but across centuries to feudal Japan. We're going to talk about a figure synonymous with honor, discipline, and lethal skill, the samurai. You might picture them in gleaming armor, locked in heroic battle, or perhaps meditating serenely under a cherry blossom tree. And while those images hold a kernel of truth, the reality of a samurai's social life, especially during peacetime, was far more complex, brutal, and often agonizingly constrained. You'll quickly discover that if you were a samurai in peacetime, your rigid social existence would probably make even a modern corporate boardroom meeting feel like a casual picnic. Seriously, forget your personal freedoms, your casual friendships, or your ability to speak your mind freely. This was a world ruled by an invisible code, a constant performance, and a pervasive fear of shame. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're a samurai? Perhaps named Kenji, living in a quiet castle town during the Edo period, a time of relative peace in Japan. The era of constant warfare has largely ended, yet your life, far from being one of leisure, is instead defined by an almost suffocatingly rigid code of conduct, a system of rules and expectations that governs every single waking moment. This isn't just a set of guidelines, it's the very air you breathe, the lens through which you perceive the world and are perceived by it. This is Bushido, the way of the warrior, and it is far more than just a philosophy for battle. It's a relentless social contract that dictates your every interaction, your every decision, and even your innermost thoughts. Imagine your morning. You don't wake up at your leisure. Your day is likely structured with meticulous precision, beginning with rituals of personal hygiene, followed by martial arts practice. This isn't a casual workout. It's a dedicated session of sword practice, perhaps with a wooden bokken or a dull blade. You meticulously refine your stances, your cuts, your draws, knowing that even in peacetime, your skill with the katana is the ultimate symbol of your identity and your family's honor. This isn't a hobby. It's a relentless daily affirmation of your warrior spirit, a constant honing of skills that might never be tested in real combat, but must always be perfect. The physical exertion, the mental focus, all before breakfast, are a testament to the discipline demanded of you. Historians often emphasize the shift in samurai training from battlefield tactics to formal martial arts during the Edo period. Your very clothing and appearance are governed by strict rules. You don't choose what to wear based on personal preference or comfort. Your attire, from your formal kimono to the way you tie your obi and wear your hair, signifies your rank, your clan, and your social standing. Every fold, every detail is meticulously observed by others. Imagine constantly worrying about whether your top knot is perfectly tied or if your kimono is wrinkled, knowing that such a minor oversight could be perceived as a lack of discipline or disrespect, potentially bringing shame upon yourself or your lord. Your body is a canvas upon which your social identity is constantly displayed, demanding unwavering attention to detail. Beyond personal appearance, etiquette and protocol are paramount, far more complex and pervasive than any modern social graces. Every bow, every word, every gesture is laden with meaning. When speaking to a superior, your language must be meticulously polite and deferential, sometimes even involving specific grammatical forms that are no longer used in casual conversation. When greeting a peer, the depth of your bow, the angle of your head, and the placement of your hands all convey subtle messages about status and respect. Imagine navigating a social landscape where a misplaced foot or an unintended glance could be interpreted as a grave insult, leading to a duel or a blood feud. Your social survival depends on an almost encyclopedic knowledge of these unspoken rules, a constant performance of deference and dignity. The concept of honor is not an abstract ideal. It is the very currency of your existence, dictating your life and, often, your death, your personal honor, and by extension, the honor of your family and your Lord is meticulously guarded. Any perceived insult, any slight, any breach of protocol could be a devastating blow to your reputation. This doesn't just mean avoiding public shame, it means being constantly vigilant, always aware of how your actions reflect on your entire lineage. Imagine a lifetime lived under the weight of such an immense, pervasive pressure to maintain an unblemished reputation, knowing that one misstep could lead to financial ruin, social ostracization, or even ritual suicide. Academics still debate the precise interpretations of Giri and Mayo, but their societal importance is undeniable. Your social interactions are also severely limited by rank and circumstance. You cannot simply strike up a casual conversation with anyone you meet. Your interactions with merchants, farmers, or artisans are dictated by your superior status, often involving terse commands or formal exchanges. Even among fellow samurai, the hierarchy of rank determines how you speak, how you sit, and even where you walk. Imagine a world where your casual friends are limited to a very small group of peers, and every other interaction is a performance of power or deference. This constant awareness of social stratification creates a rigid, often isolating, environment. The expectation of unquestioning loyalty to your Lord is absolute, bordering on the fanatical. Your life, your family, your very existence are entirely subordinate to His will. If He commands you to undertake a perilous mission, you do it without hesitation. If He demands your life, you are expected to offer it willingly, often through seppuku, to preserve His honor and your own. This isn't a job, it's a sacred bond, an unbreakable vow that dictates your every choice. Imagine a corporate culture where your CEO could order you to take your own life, and you would consider it an honor to obey. It's a terrifying, alien concept to modern sensibilities. Yet it was the ultimate expression of samurai loyalty. This pervasive control over every aspect of your life, from your appearance and actions to your very thoughts and emotions, created a gilded cage for the samurai in peacetime. You lived a life of privilege, yes, but one bought at the cost of profound personal freedom and the constant, crushing weight of an unyielding code. The sword on your hip, the symbol of your status, was also a constant reminder of the brutal expectations that defined your every waking moment. Your life was a performance, and the stage was a society that demanded absolute perfection and punished any deviation with the swift, merciless blade of shame. Last night, we peered into the rigid code of Bushido, exploring how it dictated every aspect of a samurai's life in peacetime, from their meticulous appearance to their unwavering loyalty. Tonight, let's delve deeper into a subtle yet profound source of misery for these warriors' peacetime's gilded cage, exploring the unique pressures, the constant scrutiny, and the profound sense of stagnation that defined life for a warrior without a war. Because while the Edo period brought stability, it also brought a quiet kind of torment for the samurai class. You're a samurai, still named Kenji, and the swords at your side, the katana and wakizashi, are not merely weapons. They are potent symbols of your status, your training, and your readiness to die. Yet, in this era of prolonged peace, those blades largely remain sheathed. The thrilling chaos of the battlefield, the ultimate test of your martial prowess, is a distant memory or an idealized dream. Your entire being has been meticulously forged for war. But now, the canvas for your skills is, paradoxically, empty. Imagine being a highly trained athlete, constantly prepared for a championship game that never arrives. The energy, the focus, the physical conditioning all have no immediate outlet. This creates a pervasive sense of stagnation and frustration. Your life is defined by a meticulous routine of drills and ceremonial duties. You still practice your swordsmanship for hours, perfecting forms and techniques, but the stakes are gone. Your martial arts are now less about survival and more about ritual, about maintaining a perfect physical and mental state for a war that may never come. You attend endless meetings with your lord or other samurai, participating in formal ceremonies that are rich in symbolism but often devoid of substance. Imagine endless hours spent in rigid, uncomfortable postures, listening to tedious political discussions or reciting formal greetings, when your body craves the thrill of movement and your mind yearns for genuine challenge. The very concept of leisure time for a samurai in peacetime was complex. While you weren't constantly fighting, true relaxation was elusive. Your mind was still bound by Bushido, your body by discipline. You might engage in pursuits like calligraphy, poetry, or the tea ceremony, all of which were considered refined arts suitable for a warrior scholar. But even these were often formal, ritualized activities, performed with a meticulousness that could feel more like another duty than a true respite. Imagine trying to relax by performing an intricate, hour-long ceremony, every gesture and every word precisely prescribed, with the constant pressure of perfection. The constant scrutiny from your peers and superiors forms a significant part of this gilded cage. In a society obsessed with honor and reputation, every samurai was constantly under observation. Your posture, your speech, your adherence to etiquette, your diligence in training, all were meticulously noted. Any perceived lapse in discipline, any sign of laziness or indulgence could lead to a loss of respect, diminishing your standing within the clan and potentially impacting your lord's favor. Imagine living every moment as if you were on stage, constantly performing for an unseen, yet omnipresent, audience of judgment. This pervasive sense of being watched, this inability to truly be yourself, would be incredibly draining and psychologically taxing. Historians widely acknowledge the intense social pressure for conformity within the samurai class during the Edo period. This meticulous existence, devoid of direct combat, often led to internal psychological pressures. Warriors trained for years, even decades, to face death, to confront enemies, and to seek glory on the battlefield. Without that outlet, their inherent aggression and need for purpose could fester. Some might turn to excessive drinking, gambling, or patronizing pleasure quarters, seeking an escape from the suffocating routine. Others might find themselves consumed by melancholy, a quiet despair born from a sense of obsolescence. The razor's edge of Bushido, so sharp in war, could become a dull, oppressive weight in peace. The rigid social hierarchy also contributed to this feeling of being caged. Your rank determined almost everything about your life: where you lived, what you wore, whom you could associate with, and even the topics you could discuss. Upward mobility was almost non existent. You were largely born into your station. Imagine being a highly skilled warrior, but knowing your entire life's trajectory is set, with little room for personal ambition beyond serving your lord. This lack of personal agency, this feeling of being a pawn in a larger game, could lead to a profound sense of powerlessness and quiet resentment. For many samurai, their primary duty in peacetime became bureaucratic administration. They transitioned from warriors to administrators, managing their lord's lands, collecting taxes, or serving in various government offices. Imagine a warrior whose hands are accustomed to the sword, now spending his days poring over ledgers, drafting documents, or mediating petty disputes. While essential for societal stability, this intellectual, often tedious, work was a stark departure from the martial life they were trained for, leading to a sense of unfulfillment and frustration. Academics describe this significant shift from warrior to bureaucrat as a defining characteristic of the Edo period samurai. The absence of a common enemy also meant that internal rivalries could become more pronounced. Without the unifying purpose of war, samurai clans might turn their attention to subtle political maneuvering, vying for influence and favor at the shogun's court or within their own domain. This constant game of polite deception, of unspoken threats and veiled insults, could be incredibly stressful, forcing samurai to be perpetually vigilant, not just against external foes, but against their own supposed allies. It was a cold war fought with words and social standing rather than swords and arrows. This profound lack of external challenge, combined with the crushing weight of internal expectations, transformed the samurai's existence. Their lives became a meticulous, disciplined, yet often empty performance. The gilded cage of peacetime, while offering safety and privilege, paradoxically robbed many samurai of their core purpose, forcing them to find meaning in ritual, discipline, and the quiet endurance of a life without the glorious, terrible clarity of war. The very code that made them formidable in battle became a source of silent agony in times of peace. Last night, we explored the subtle yet profound pressures of peacetime, discovering how the samurai's life became a gilded cage of routine and quiet stagnation. Tonight, let's confront the relentless, all consuming force that dictated every aspect of a samurai's existence. Far beyond mere comfort, or even life itself, honor's relentless burden. Witnessing the terrifying demands of maintaining reputation and avoiding shame in a society where a perceived slight could lead to ruin or even ritual suicide. Because for a samurai, honor was not just a virtue, it was the very air they breathed, a constant, invisible weight that could crush them at any moment. You are a samurai, perhaps named Kenji, living in a quiet castle town, yet your every movement, every word, every subtle gesture is scrutinized through the unforgiving lens of honor and duty. This isn't a casual social code. It's the absolute framework of your existence, dictating your relationships, your career, and your very self-worth. Any deviation, any perceived dishonor, could trigger a cascade of catastrophic consequences for yourself, your family, and even your lord. Imagine a world where a slight mistake in etiquette could unravel your entire life. The concept of reputation was paramount. Your honor was inextricably linked to your public image, and any blemish on that image was a deep, unhealing wound. A samurai was expected to be brave, loyal, disciplined, and impeccable in every aspect of his conduct. Any rumor of cowardice, dishonesty, or even unseemly behavior could destroy your standing. Imagine living every moment as if under intense public scrutiny, constantly performing to maintain an unblemished reputation, knowing that whispers could be as deadly as a blade. This pervasive pressure created an environment of intense self-awareness and constant anxiety. Historians widely cite the paramount importance of honor in shaping samurai behavior and societal expectations. The weight of honor extended beyond your personal conduct to your family and your lord. Your actions reflected directly on your entire lineage. If you brought shame upon yourself, you simultaneously shamed your ancestors and your descendants, and your loyalty to your daimyo was absolute. His honor was your honor, and any insult to him, or any failure to serve him perfectly, could be a devastating blow to your personal standing. Imagine feeling the immense pressure of carrying not just your own reputation, but the collective honor of generations on your shoulders. This relentless burden of honor manifested in terrifying ways. One of the most extreme was ritual suicide, or seppuku. This wasn't a sign of cowardice. It was the ultimate act of reclaiming honor after a perceived failure or disgrace. If you, as a samurai, committed a grave error, lost a battle, or were deemed to have brought shame upon your lord or family, you might be ordered, or feel compelled, to perform seppuku. Imagine the chilling decision facing excruciating physical pain to cleanse an invisible stain on your honor. The act itself, a meticulously ritualized disembowelment, underscored the samurai's willingness to control even their own death, transforming it into a final, profound declaration of loyalty and integrity. The cultural significance of seppuku is a truly unique and horrifying aspect of samurai life. But honor's burden wasn't always about such dramatic ends. More commonly, it involved constant self denial and emotional suppression. A samurai was expected to maintain an unshakable composure, never revealing fear, anger, or sadness. Displays of weakness were considered dishonorable. Imagine constantly suppressing your true emotions, maintaining a stoic facade even in moments of profound grief or intense frustration. This emotional repression, this constant performance of unwavering calm, would be incredibly draining, leading to a quiet, internal torment that few outside their caste could comprehend. The popular image of the stoic samurai is deeply rooted in this enforced emotional control. The concept of face was deeply intertwined with honor. Losing face meant public humiliation, a devastating blow to one's reputation. This extended to every interaction. If you, as a samurai, were publicly insulted, you were often compelled to seek satisfaction, even if it meant risking your life in a duel. To ignore an insult, to show weakness in the face of provocation, was to lose face, a dishonor that could brand you for life. Imagine navigating every conversation, every public gathering, with the constant awareness that a single careless word or a perceived slight could trigger a demand for satisfaction. This constant pressure also led to an internal struggle with perfectionism. A samurai was expected to excel in martial arts, poetry, calligraphy, and etiquette. Any less than perfect performance could be seen as a lapse in discipline, a reflection of a flawed character. This relentless pursuit of perfection, driven by the fear of shame, created an incredibly demanding internal landscape where self criticism and the fear of failure were constant companions. Academics often discuss the psychological burden of such high and often unattainable societal expectations. The social rigidity of peacetime, which limited opportunities for glorious battle, often meant that the intense energies and disciplines of the samurai were redirected inwards or towards internal clan politics. Here, honor could be gained or lost through subtle maneuvering, impeccable etiquette, and unwavering loyalty in court. Rivalries, while less bloody than wartime, could still be devastating, with careers, fortunes, and reputations hanging in the balance based on adherence to the unspoken rules of influence and deference. This constant performance, this hyper awareness of social standing, was another form of battle, fought with politeness and protocol instead of swords. Even simple acts, like eating or drinking, were subject to the strictures of honor. A samurai was expected to eat with restraint, never showing gluttony. Drinking too much, or becoming unruly while intoxicated, was a profound disgrace. Every aspect of their lives was a performance of their adherence to Bushido, a constant validation of their worthiness. This relentless attention to detail, this unceasing self regulation, demonstrates the total immersion of a samurai in their code of honor. Ultimately, honor in the samurai world was a double edged sword. It was the source of their legendary discipline, their unwavering loyalty, and their profound sense of purpose. But it was also a relentless burden, a constant pressure that demanded absolute perfection, punished any perceived flaw with crushing shame, and often led to tragic, self inflicted ends. The samurai's brutal social life in peacetime was a continuous, silent battle to maintain an unblemished reputation, a terrifying dance on the razor's edge of honor, where a single misstep could mean the ultimate, agonizing fall. Last night, we grappled with the relentless burden of honor, witnessing how its terrifying demands shaped every aspect of a samurai's life in peacetime, often leading to profound shame or ritual suicide. Tonight, let's explore a more direct, yet equally chilling, consequence of this honor driven society dueling, a deadly etiquette, uncovering the terrifying reality of personal combat outside of official warfare, where a perceived insult could lead to a swift, often fatal, test of skill and resolve. Because while the Edo period brought peace, the samurai's blade was never truly at rest, its edge honed by the constant possibility of personal combat. You are a samurai, perhaps Kenji, walking through the bustling streets of a castle town. Your katana and wakizashi hang at your side, not just as symbols of your rank, but as instruments of your livelihood. And, grimly, your honor. In this era of peace, large-scale battles are rare, but personal disputes, often fueled by pride, perceived slights, or a clash of egos, can escalate rapidly into a demand for satisfaction. Imagine a society where a heated argument over a minor matter could genuinely lead to a fight to the death. This constant possibility added a razor-sharp edge to every social interaction, transforming polite conversation into a dangerous dance. The core reason for dueling was the preservation of honor. In a society where a samurai's reputation was paramount, any public insult, any perceived act of disrespect, or any challenge to one's bravery or skill had to be answered. To ignore a slight was to show weakness, to lose face, a disgrace that could stain your honor and that of your family. Imagine being publicly jostled on a crowded street, or having your lineage subtly questioned by a rival samurai. Your immediate reaction, driven by ingrained Bushido, would be to demand satisfaction, to restore your honor through a display of courage and martial prowess. Academics still debate the precise frequency of duels, but their cultural acceptance and legal nuances are well documented. Duels were not random street brawls. They often followed a specific, albeit deadly, etiquette. If an insult occurred, one samurai might issue a formal challenge, often by exchanging specific words or even by touching the other's sword sheath. This challenge would often be brought before a superior or a neutral party, who might try to mediate the dispute. However, if honor demanded blood, the duel would proceed. Imagine the chilling formality of such a challenge, knowing that every word spoken could lead to a fatal encounter. The choice of weapons was almost always the katana, the samurai's primary sword. These were not blunt practice blades. They were razor-sharp, expertly crafted weapons, capable of inflicting horrific wounds. The duel itself might take place in a secluded location, a quiet grove, a remote temple courtyard, or a designated dueling ground, away from the main populace, but often with a few trusted witnesses. Imagine the tension in the air, the silence broken only by the rustle of leaves or the beating of your own heart, as you face an opponent whose sole intent is to end your life. The duel itself was incredibly quick, often decided in a single, lightning-fast exchange of blows. Years of meticulous sword training, of perfecting your draw and your cutting strike, culminated in this one terrifying moment. There were no protracted fencing matches, no drawn-out battles of attrition. It was a test of absolute precision, speed, and nerve. One misstep, one hesitation, one fraction of a second too slow, and your life would be forfeit. Imagine the hyper-focus, the adrenaline coursing through your veins as you stare into your opponent's eyes, knowing that only one of you will walk away. This terrifying brevity is a unique characteristic of samurai duels, often glorified in popular culture, but rooted in deadly practicality. The consequences were absolute death or severe injury. A duel was rarely fought to merely wound. The aim was to kill, to eliminate the source of the insult and restore honor completely. If you survived, you might be severely injured, facing a slow, painful recovery without modern medicine, and carrying permanent scars. If you died, your family would mourn your loss, but ideally, your honor would be intact, perhaps even elevated by your courageous stand. This finality of consequences instilled a profound seriousness into every challenge, every perceived slight. Duels were not always about personal honor. Sometimes they were used to settle clan disputes or enforce justice outside of formal legal channels. If a samurai committed a grave offense against another clan, and formal justice was too slow or insufficient, a challenge to a duel could be issued, with the outcome determining the resolution of the dispute. This highlights the complex interplay between individual honor, clan politics, and the limitations of the legal system in feudal Japan. Academics have found instances where duels served as a form of extrajudicial resolution for serious grievances. The constant possibility of dueling also served as a powerful tool of social control and deterrence. It meant that samurai were constantly expected to be disciplined, courteous, and mindful of their actions and words. Any lapse could lead to a challenge, and every samurai knew that their survival depended on their ability to defend their honor with a blade. This pervasive threat helped to maintain order and enforce a strict code of conduct, even when there was no active warfare. Imagine the polite, yet intensely guarded, conversations, knowing that anger or disrespect could quickly escalate to lethal consequences. For the samurai in peacetime, the sword was never truly sheathed. Its hidden potential, the constant threat of personal combat, shaped their every interaction. The rigid etiquette, the precise movements, the careful choice of words, all were part of a delicate dance designed to navigate a world where a misplaced syllable or a perceived affront could lead to a deadly encounter. Dueling wasn't a relic of a bygone era. It was a living, terrifying reality. A brutal reminder that a samurai's honor was not just a philosophy, but a sharp, unforgiving blade, always ready to be drawn. Last night, we explored the deadly etiquette of dueling, uncovering how a perceived insult could lead to a fatal test of honor for a samurai in peacetime. Tonight, let's zoom out from individual combat to the broader, all-encompassing structure that dictated every aspect of a samurai's life, strict social ranks, experiencing the suffocating hierarchy that governed every interaction, every aspiration, and every limitation. Because while the samurai class held immense privilege, they were still bound by an intricate web of status that could feel as restrictive as any physical cage. You are a samurai, perhaps named Kenji, living in Edo, Japan. Your rank isn't just a title, it's the very air you breathe, the lens through which you perceive the world and are perceived by it. Japanese society during the Edo period was meticulously stratified into a rigid four-tier class system, often called shi no kosho, with the samurai at its apex. But even within the samurai class, there was an incredibly complex and suffocating hierarchy, a dizzying array of ranks, stipends, and privileges that determined your entire existence. Imagine a corporate ladder where every rung is visible, every step is scrutinized, and a fall can be catastrophic. At the very top of the samurai hierarchy was the shogun, the supreme military ruler of Japan, and below him, the powerful daimyo, the regional lords who commanded vast domains. You, as a samurai, were a vassal of a daimyo, and your position within his domain was meticulously defined. This was not a fluid system. Your rank was typically inherited, passed down through generations, meaning your place in society was largely predetermined by your birth. Imagine being born into a specific tier, knowing that your entire life's trajectory, your income, your marriage prospects, and your social interactions are already set in stone, with little room for personal ambition beyond excelling within your assigned role. This rigid hierarchy governed every single interaction. When you encountered a samurai of higher rank, your posture, your language, and your very movements had to convey extreme deference. You would bow lower, use more formal speech, and walk on the lower side of the road to show respect. To fail in this intricate dance of etiquette was not just rude, it was a grave insult, potentially leading to punishment or a challenge. Imagine constantly calculating the precise angle of your bow, the exact phrasing of your words, and the correct placement of your body in relation to every person you encountered, knowing that a single mistake could cost you dearly. Conversely, when interacting with those of lower rank, such as commoners, your demeanor was one of authority and superiority. You had the right to demand deference, and any disrespect from a commoner could be met with brutal swiftness, even the right to cut them down with your sword. Though this right was rarely exercised without serious justification. Imagine the immense weight of this privilege, knowing your life was considered inherently more valuable than theirs, and the constant temptation to exercise that power. This stark power imbalance was a defining and often brutal aspect of samurai social life. Historians widely cite Kirisute Gomen as a symbol of the samurai's absolute authority. Though it was legally complex and not a license for wanton violence, even among fellow samurai, within your own clan, the minutiae of rank dictated everything. Your stipend, the size of your retinue, the elaborateness of your home, and even the types of gifts you could give or receive were all precisely calibrated to your status. Imagine attending a gathering where your seating position, the quality of your tea bowl, and the number of servants attending you all subtly broadcast your precise place in the pecking order. This constant performance of status created an environment of perpetual comparison and subtle competition, where any attempt to live above your station would be quickly noticed and often punished. The marriage market was also suffocatingly hierarchical, as we'll discuss. Marriages were primarily strategic alliances between families of similar rank and wealth. You could not simply marry for love across social strata. A samurai marrying a commoner, for instance, would be a profound disgrace, potentially leading to disownment or loss of status. Your choice of spouse was largely dictated by your family and your lord, ensuring the perpetuation of the established social order. Imagine your family vetting potential spouses, not for compatibility or affection, but for their lineage, their stipend, and their family's standing, knowing that your future happiness was secondary to the maintenance of your social rank. This rigid system led to a profound lack of social mobility. For the vast majority of samurai, the rank they were born into was the rank they would die in. There was little opportunity to advance based purely on merit, unless you achieved extraordinary military distinction or gained exceptional favor from your lord. Imagine being highly intelligent or skilled, but knowing your potential is forever limited by the circumstances of your birth. This inherent stagnation could be a source of immense frustration and quiet resentment for those who felt stifled by their predetermined roles. Academics discussed the internal pressures within the Edo period samurai class due to this lack of upward mobility, The social rules extended even to leisure activities and public conduct. What you could wear, what kind of entertainment you could enjoy, and how you behaved in public were all dictated by your rank. You couldn't simply let your guard down. Any display of excessive wealth or undue familiarity with those of lower status could be seen as inappropriate. This constant self regulation, this perpetual performance of your social role, left little room for genuine self expression or casual relaxation. Ultimately, the strict social ranks of the samurai class in peacetime formed a complex and suffocating cage. While it provided order, stability, and privilege, it came at the cost of profound personal freedom, autonomy, and the crushing weight of a predetermined fate. Every interaction was a reminder of your place, every aspiration limited by your birthright, and every step a careful dance through an intricate web of hierarchy. The samurai's brutal social life was a constant performance on a stage defined by rank, where the fear of falling was as terrifying as any enemy blade. Last night, we explored the suffocating reality of strict social ranks that governed every aspect of a samurai's life in peacetime, from their daily interactions to their very aspirations. Tonight, let's delve into another profound constraint on their personal lives: marriage, a strategic chessboard, understanding how alliances, not love, dictated family unions, transforming the most intimate of relationships into a carefully calculated maneuver for power, wealth, and status. Because for a samurai, choosing a spouse was rarely a matter of the heart. It was a move in a much larger, high stakes game. You are a samurai, perhaps Kenji, now of marriageable age. Forget romantic notions of finding your soulmate or falling in love. Your marriage is not a personal choice, it is a strategic alliance, meticulously orchestrated by your family and your lord. Your role is to obey, to accept the match that best serves the interests of your clan and lineage. Imagine being told who you will spend the rest of your life with, based purely on their family's wealth, political connections, or military strength, with your own feelings being utterly irrelevant. The purpose of alliance marriages in feudal Japan, particularly within the samurai class, were primarily about consolidating power, securing loyalty, and expanding influence. A powerful daimyo might arrange marriages between his samurai and the daughters of other influential families to cement alliances, prevent rivalries, or create a network of dependable vassals. For lower ranking samurai, a marriage could mean a promotion in status, a larger stipend, or access to new resources. Imagine your clan's elders scrutinizing family trees, assessing dowries, and weighing political implications, long before they even considered individual personalities. This was a complex, multi-generational chess game, and you were a key piece. Historians widely cite marriage as a primary tool for maintaining political stability and power within feudal Japan. Dowries and bride prices. The economic stakes. Just like in other ancient societies, dowries and bride prices played a crucial role. For the bride's family, a dowry was a transfer of wealth that accompanied her to the new household. For the groom's family, a bride price might be exchanged. These were not mere symbolic gestures. They were substantial financial transactions that underscored the economic importance of the union. Imagine the intense negotiations, the careful accounting of assets, as two families merge their fortunes through the bond of marriage. A prosperous alliance could significantly boost a family's standing. Lack of personal choice. For the bride and groom, personal choice was almost non-existent. You would likely meet your spouse only shortly before the wedding, or sometimes not even until the ceremony itself. Compatibility, shared interests, or romantic attraction were secondary, if considered at all. Your duty was to your family and your clan, and if that meant marrying a stranger to secure a vital alliance, then that was your fate. Imagine the anxiety of facing a lifelong commitment with someone you barely knew, navigating a new household and a new family dynamic without the foundation of mutual affection. This enforced pragmatism in marriage starkly contrasts with modern, Western ideals of romantic love. Maintaining social ranks, marriages were also strictly governed by social rank. A samurai could not simply marry a commoner or someone of significantly lower social standing. Such a union would bring profound shame and disgrace upon your family, potentially leading to disownment or loss of status. The hierarchy was meticulously maintained through carefully selected matches, ensuring that the samurai class remained distinct and powerful. Imagine the pressure to marry someone who perfectly matched your family's social standing, reinforcing the rigid structure of society. The wife's role and status. Once married, a samurai wife's role was clearly defined. Her primary duty was to manage the household, often with considerable authority over servants and finances, especially when her husband was away. She was expected to be virtuous, disciplined, and to bear sons to continue the family lineage. While she held significant power within the domestic sphere, her public life was highly restricted, and her actions reflected directly on her husband's honor. Imagine the immense responsibilities thrust upon a young woman, suddenly in charge of a complex household, with the added pressure of producing male heirs. This was a demanding, often thankless role. The concept of love and affection within marriage was not entirely absent, but it often grew after the union was established, forged through shared responsibilities, mutual respect, and the raising of a family. While marriages were arranged, many couples undoubtedly developed deep bonds over time, finding companionship and solace in their shared journey. The sagas and literature of the time, while often glorifying romantic love, also depicted the quiet dignity and strength found in these arranged partnerships. Academics debate the extent of personal affection within arranged samurai marriages, but acknowledge that enduring bonds were common, concubinage, and outside relationships. The existence of concubinage also played a role, particularly for high ranking samurai. While a concubine did not hold the same legal status as a wife, their children might still be recognized, though with inferior inheritance rights. This practice often served to ensure the continuation of the family line, particularly if the legal wife was unable to bear sons. Such arrangements, while potentially causing tension within the household, were often accepted as pragmatic solutions in a society obsessed with lineage. This further highlighted the strategic rather than romantic nature of the primary marriage. Ultimately, marriage for a samurai in peacetime was a far cry from a modern romance. It was a strategic imperative, a complex negotiation of alliances, wealth, and status, with personal affection often a secondary consideration. The chessboard of family politics dictated your spouse, and your duty was to play your part flawlessly. This brutal reality, however, also forged incredibly resilient partnerships built on shared purpose and mutual respect that served as the very foundation of the samurai class and the stability of the Edo period. The bonds might have been forged in duty, but often a deep and enduring love blossomed within their strictures, a testament to the enduring human need for connection, even in the most calculated of unions. Last night, we explored the strategic chessboard of samurai marriage, understanding how alliances and family interests dictated unions over personal affection. Tonight, let's delve into the ultimate, often chilling, expression of a samurai's existence, the hidden blade of duty, confronting the extreme sacrifices, including their own lives, demanded by unwavering loyalty and the crushing weight of obligation. Because for a samurai, duty was not merely a concept, it was a sacred, invisible blade that could be turned upon oneself at any moment. You are a samurai, perhaps Kenji, and your life is not your own. From the moment you were born into this warrior class, Your very existence was pledged to your lord. This isn't just a boss-employee relationship, it's a sacred, unbreakable bond, a vow of absolute fealty that transcends personal feelings, family ties, and even self-preservation. Your loyalty is total, and your life is ultimately an extension of your lord's will. Imagine a corporate environment where your CEO has the absolute right to demand your life, and you consider it an honor to comply. This is the terrifying reality of your world. The ultimate sacrifice. Seppuku. The most profound and horrifying manifestation of this hidden blade of duty is seppuku, ritual suicide. This wasn't a punishment imposed by an enemy. It was the ultimate act of reclaiming honor, atoning for a failure, or following one's lord into death. If your lord died, especially if he fell in battle or committed seppuku himself, you, as his loyal vassal, might feel compelled to perform junshi, following him into death. Imagine making the chilling decision to end your own life, not out of despair, but out of an unshakable sense of duty and loyalty. The act of seppuku itself was meticulously ritualized and excruciating. It involved plunging a short sword or dagger into your abdomen, drawing it across from left to right, then often upwards. This was a slow, agonizing death, requiring immense willpower. To lessen the prolonged suffering, a trusted second, or kaishakunin, would stand by, ready to deliver a swift, decapitating blow to your neck at a precise moment, typically after the initial cut. Imagine the chilling composure required to perform such an act, to maintain dignity even as you disembowel yourself, knowing your body will soon be severed. This willingness to endure extreme pain and face a gruesome death with perfect composure was the ultimate demonstration of a samurai's iron will and his absolute commitment to honor and duty. Historians widely acknowledge the psychological and physical fortitude required for seppuku, often noting it as a profound cultural act of control over one's own death. Loyalty beyond reason. This unwavering loyalty extended beyond death. A samurai was expected to protect his lord's interests, even at great personal cost. This might mean undertaking perilous missions, acting as a spy, or even sacrificing your family's fortune or safety to support your lord in times of need. Your personal desires, your family's well-being, your very life were all secondary to the demands of your duty. Imagine being ordered to give up your lands, your wife, or even your children for your lord's benefit, and accepting it as your unquestionable duty. The 47 Ronin is a famous historical example that perfectly encapsulates this extreme sense of duty and loyalty. After their lord was forced to commit seppuku, these samurai became Ronin. For over a year, they meticulously planned their revenge, enduring immense hardship and disguising themselves, all to avenge their lord's honor. Once their revenge was complete, knowing they had fulfilled their duty, they all committed seppuku. This wasn't a historical anomaly. It was an embodiment of the ultimate samurai ideal, a chilling testament to loyalty that transcended the normal bounds of human behavior. Academics continue to analyze the 47 Ronin incident as a quintessential example of Bushido's practical application and its ethical complexities. The weight of obligation beyond direct orders. The samurai lived under a constant, pervasive weight of obligation. This was a complex concept, referring to a sense of moral obligation that often required difficult sacrifices. You might owe giri to your lord for his patronage, to your family for raising you, or even to a stranger who showed you kindness. These obligations could demand immense personal sacrifice, forcing you to act against your own interests or desires. Imagine a situation where your duty to a deceased lord compels you to act in a way that harms your own family, yet you feel morally bound to do so. This internal conflict between personal happiness and absolute obligation was a constant psychological burden. This profound sense of duty also manifested in a relentless pursuit of perfection in all things, whether it was martial arts, calligraphy, or the tea ceremony. A samurai strived for mastery, not just for personal skill, but as an expression of their dedication and discipline. Any less than perfect performance was seen as a failing, a dishonor to oneself and one's lord. Imagine living every moment with this crushing pressure to excel, to demonstrate unwavering control and proficiency in every aspect of your life, knowing that your dignity and your very existence depended on it. The concept of sacrifice was deeply ingrained. A samurai was always prepared to sacrifice his life, his family, his wealth, and his personal happiness for the sake of his lord and his honor. This wasn't a choice, it was a fundamental aspect of his identity. This constant readiness for ultimate sacrifice permeated every aspect of their social life, making it a brutal, high stakes existence where the hidden blade of duty was always present, ready to demand its final price. The extreme demands of loyalty and obligation in the samurai world created a social life that was, in its own way, as brutal as any battlefield. While the peace of the Edo period removed the constant threat of open warfare, it replaced it with an intense internal struggle, a relentless pursuit of honor and duty that often led to profound personal suffering and the ultimate sacrifice. The chilling beauty of seppuku, the unwavering loyalty of the 47 ronin, and the pervasive sense of obligation all serve as powerful reminders of the hidden blade of duty, a concept that defined the samurai's existence and carved their indelible mark on history. Last night, we confronted the chilling reality of duty's hidden blade, exploring the extreme sacrifices, including seppuku, demanded by a samurai's unwavering loyalty. Tonight, as the long years of peace stretch onward, let's delve into a different kind of torment, one that might surprise you: boredom's silent torture, exploring the psychological toll of a warrior without a war, and how the absence of direct conflict paradoxically created immense internal suffering for the samurai. Because while battle brought physical pain, peacetime brought a slow, agonizing erosion of purpose. You are a samurai, perhaps Kenji, residing in your domain, and the Edo period has brought an unprecedented era of peace. The clang of swords on the battlefield has been replaced by the quiet rustle of official documents and the polite murmurs of courtly etiquette. Your formidable skills, honed through years of rigorous training, your mastery of the katana, your strategic mind, your physical endurance now have no immediate outlet. Imagine being a champion athlete, trained to the peak of physical perfection, but confined to a sedentary life, your body and mind craving the very challenge they were built for. This creates a profound sense of frustration and existential emptiness, the lack of purpose. A samurai's entire identity was intrinsically linked to his role as a warrior. His purpose was to serve his lord in battle, to protect his domain, and to uphold honor through martial prowess. In peacetime, this core purpose was largely removed. While administrative duties replaced some of this void, the transition from wielding a sword to wielding a quill was a jarring one for many. Imagine being trained your entire life for one specific, highly valued, and dangerous profession, only to find yourself performing bureaucratic tasks that feel utterly devoid of meaning compared to your true calling. This profound lack of purpose could lead to a deep-seated melancholy, a quiet despair that gnawed at the soul. Historians widely acknowledge this crisis of identity for the Edo period samurai. Relentless routine. Your days are filled with relentless routine, a monotonous cycle of drills, formal meetings, and administrative tasks. You still practice your swordsmanship, but the stakes are gone. It becomes a ritual, a performance, rather than a matter of life and death. You attend endless ceremonies, listen to tedious political discussions, and navigate complex social protocols. Imagine the mind numbing repetition, the absence of spontaneity, the feeling that every day is indistinguishable from the last. This perpetual tedium, devoid of stimulating challenges, could be a silent form of torture, slowly eroding your mental vitality. Absence of glory. The glory you might have sought on the battlefield, the ultimate validation of your warrior spirit, is now unattainable. Stories of past heroes, of daring raids and valiant duels fill the air, but they are relics of a bygone era. You are left to ponder what might have been, to yearn for a death that will never come. This absence of the ultimate proving ground, this denial of the opportunity to achieve martial glory, could lead to a sense of unfulfillment and quiet desperation. Imagine a deep seated longing for conflict, even the brutal conflict of war, simply to find meaning in your existence. Emotional and intellectual stagnation. The rigid social constraints and the lack of external challenge also contributed to emotional and intellectual stagnation. You were expected to maintain a stoic demeanor, suppressing any outward signs of boredom, frustration, or despair. There were few outlets for genuine self expression or emotional release, while pursuits like poetry, calligraphy, and the tea ceremony were refined arts. They were also highly ritualized, offering little room for spontaneous creativity or emotional catharsis. Imagine having a vibrant inner world, teeming with thoughts and feelings, but being forced to present a perfectly composed, emotionless facade to the world. This emotional repression could lead to internal turmoil and deep psychological distress. Academics have explored the themes of ennui and existential angst in Edo period samurai literature, financial precarity adding to stress. Paradoxically, despite the peace, many samurai faced increasing financial difficulties, adding another layer of stress to their existence. Their stipends, often fixed amounts of rice, were susceptible to inflation and economic changes. While outwardly symbols of status, many samurai lived precariously, their budget stretched thin by the need to maintain appearances, pay for their households, and adhere to social obligations. Imagine the quiet anxiety of a samurai whose outward demeanor is one of dignified calm, but whose inner world is consumed by worries about his next meal or how to pay for his children's education. This constant underlying financial stress combined with the boredom of peacetime could be a recipe for profound unhappiness. Misdirection of aggression. The aggressive tendencies inherent in a warrior class, meticulously trained for violence, had to be redirected in peacetime. Some might channel it into rigorous martial arts practice, but others might turn to less constructive outlets. Gambling, excessive drinking, or even domestic violence. The suppression of outward conflict could lead to increased internal tensions, manifesting in unhealthy behaviors that further eroded their well being. Imagine the frustration of having immense physical power and training, with no enemy to direct it towards, and the dangerous ways that energy might be expressed. This misdirection of innate aggression is a common theme in studies of warrior classes in times of peace. The long, uneventful years of peace, while celebrated by the populace, presented a unique and brutal challenge for the samurai. Their lives, meticulously structured and fiercely disciplined, became a slow, agonizing exercise in endurance, not against a visible foe, but against the insidious creeping of boredom and the erosion of their very purpose. The absence of battle created a profound vacuum, leaving many samurai to grapple with a quiet despair, a silent torture of the spirit that was arguably as formidable as any enemy blade. The serenity of the Edo period, for many samurai, was a deceptive tranquility, masking a deep, pervasive sense of unfulfillment. Last night, we explored the silent torture of boredom, how the lack of warfare created a profound psychological void for the samurai in peacetime. Tonight, let's confront a different, yet equally insidious, source of misery that plagued many samurai, often hidden behind a veneer of dignity, financial ruin's shadow. Realizing the precarious economic life of many seemingly powerful samurai, where an unexpected expense or a change in circumstances could plunge them into crippling debt and social humiliation, because while their honor was priceless, their rice stipends were often barely enough to survive. You are a samurai, perhaps Kenji, living in a quiet castle town during the long peace of the Edo period. From the outside, you present an image of disciplined dignity, with your two swords at your side and your formal attire. But internally, for many samurai, there was a constant, gnawing anxiety about their economic well being. Your income wasn't derived from land you owned and farmed directly, nor from successful conquests. Instead, it was a fixed stipend, typically paid in rice, from your daimyo. This was your salary, your lifeline, and it was often shockingly meager. Imagine living on a fixed income that barely kept pace with the cost of living. While high ranking samurai received substantial stipends, the vast majority of samurai, the lower and middle ranks, lived on very modest incomes. These stipends, determined by their family's historical service and rank, were often fixed for generations, while prices for goods and services slowly increased. This created a situation where many samurai, despite their elite social status, were perpetually struggling to make ends meet. Imagine being a respected professional in modern day Chicago, but living on a salary that hasn't changed in 50 years, while everything else gets more expensive. This was the quiet, constant worry for countless samurai. Historians widely acknowledge the economic decline of the lower ranking samurai during the Edo period as a major social issue. Compounding this meager income were the enormous expenses associated with maintaining their samurai status. You couldn't just live cheaply, you were expected to maintain a certain standard of living, reflecting your rank and honor. This included weapons and armor. While you might not be fighting every day, your swords needed meticulous care and occasional replacement, and armor, though less frequently used, was an heirloom requiring preservation. These were incredibly expensive items. Formal attire. You needed multiple sets of high-quality kimonos and other formal wear for court attendance, ceremonies, and public appearances. These garments were costly and required constant maintenance. Household expenses. Even a modest samurai household would have servants who needed to be paid and fed. There were taxes to pay, repairs to your home, and the general costs of daily living. Social obligations. You were expected to host guests, exchange gifts, and participate in various social rituals that often involved significant expenditure. To fail in these social duties was to lose face and potentially damage your reputation. Imagine having to throw a party you can barely afford, knowing that not doing so would bring shame upon your family. This constant pressure to live above their means to maintain appearances led many samurai into crippling debt. They would borrow from wealthy merchants, often at exorbitant interest rates. While merchants were technically below samurai in the social hierarchy, their economic power often dwarfed that of many samurai. This created an ironic dynamic where the superior warrior class was often financially dependent on the inferior merchant class, a source of profound internal shame and frustration. Imagine needing a loan from someone you technically outrank, but who holds all the financial power. This hidden economic reality deeply challenged the perceived social order. The financial strain was exacerbated by several factors: famines and crop failures. Since stipends were often paid in rice, a bad harvest or a widespread famine could drastically reduce the value of your income, plunging you further into poverty. Limited economic opportunity. As warriors in a time of peace, Most samurai had very few legitimate avenues to earn additional income. Engaging in trade or manual labor was considered beneath their dignity and dishonorable. Their options were severely limited by their social status, trapping them in a cycle of fixed income and rising expenses. Academics note the Edo government's attempts to encourage samurai to engage in productive labor, often with limited success due to rigid social norms, forced loans, and contributions. Daimyo themselves sometimes faced financial difficulties and might impose forced loans or special contributions from their samurai, further straining their already meager finances. The consequence of this precarious economic existence was often a profound sense of shame and desperation. A samurai who couldn't maintain his household, who had to sell off family heirlooms, or who fell deep into debt, suffered immense personal humiliation. This financial ruin was a hidden wound, a constant source of anxiety that contradicted their public image of unwavering dignity. Imagine the internal battle, maintaining a serene outward demeanor while your stomach churns with financial worry, knowing that any public display of poverty could shatter your honor. In extreme cases, financial ruin could lead to a samurai having to become a ronin, a masterless samurai. While sometimes romanticized, becoming a ronin was often a deeply humiliating experience, a descent into poverty and social marginalization. Without a lord's stipend, a ronin might resort to teaching martial arts, becoming a guard, or, in desperate cases, even banditry. This grim fate was a constant shadow for any samurai facing insurmountable debt, a terrifying fall from grace. Ultimately, the seemingly privileged life of a samurai in peacetime was often overshadowed by the brutal reality of financial precarity. Their adherence to a rigid code of honor demanded expensive maintenance of status, while their fixed stipends and limited economic opportunities pushed many into crippling debt. The hidden shame of financial ruin was a constant, silent torment, a brutal counterpoint to their outward display of dignity and discipline. The samurai's social life was a complex performance, and for many, the most terrifying enemy was not a rival warrior, but the relentless, unseen shadow of debt and impoverishment. Last night, we peered into the dark shadow of financial ruin, uncovering the precarious economic life that plagued many samurai despite their privileged status. Tonight, as our journey through the brutal social life of a samurai in peacetime comes to its quiet close, let's reflect on tranquility's razor edge, how their unwavering discipline and a profound thirst for peace shaped their enduring legacy, and the complex, often contradictory, lessons their rigid existence offers us today. Because while their lives were filled with constraint and quiet suffering, their ideals of inner calm and mastery still resonate. You've explored a world where every breath was governed by a code, every interaction a performance, and every internal struggle a battle for honor. The constant threat of dueling, the suffocating social hierarchy, the crushing burden of duty, the agonizing boredom of peace, and the gnawing anxiety of financial insecurity, these were the unseen blades that tested a samurai's resolve daily. Yet, through it all, the samurai endured, their unwavering discipline a testament to their incredible will. The most profound legacy of the samurai in peacetime is the enduring concept of inner discipline and self-mastery. In an era without constant warfare, the samurai turned their formidable training inward, cultivating a profound mental and emotional fortitude. They sought to achieve a state of heijoshin, a calm, unwavering mind, even amidst internal turmoil or external pressures. Imagine the dedication required to maintain such composure, to suppress fear, anger, and desire in every aspect of your life. This relentless pursuit of inner calm, born from the demands of Bushido, remains a powerful ideal, influencing martial arts, philosophy, and self-help even today. Academics often highlight the shift in Bushido's emphasis from external combat to internal cultivation during the peaceful Edo period. This internal discipline also fostered a deep appreciation for simplicity and ritual. Denied the extravagance of war or personal indulgence, many samurai channeled their energy into refined arts like calligraphy, poetry, the tea ceremony, and Zen meditation. These practices, meticulously ritualized and demanding intense focus, offered a path to inner peace and self expression within the rigid confines of their social life. Imagine finding profound tranquility in the precise pouring of tea or the elegant stroke of a brush, turning mundane activities into spiritual practices. This cultivation of aesthetic and philosophical pursuits stands as a testament to their enduring creativity, even amidst severe constraints. The long period of peace, for all its psychological cost to the samurai, brought unprecedented stability and cultural flourishing to Japan. The very rigidity of the samurai class, their absolute loyalty to the shogun, ensured a controlled environment where arts, commerce, and distinctive Japanese culture could develop without constant warfare. While the individual samurai might have suffered from boredom or financial strain, their collective discipline contributed to an era of relative tranquility and prosperity for the nation. This is a complex paradox: individual misery often fueling collective stability. Historians widely acknowledge the Edo period's remarkable cultural and economic development built upon samurai governance. However, the legacy of the samurai's brutal social life also carries a stark warning. It reminds us of the dangers of extreme social stratification and the suppression of individual freedom. The rigid hierarchy, the constant fear of shame, and the denial of personal ambition, while creating a disciplined society, also stifled innovation, fostered resentment, and led to profound personal suffering. Their story serves as a historical case study, urging us to question the cost of absolute order and the ethical implications of valuing collective duty above individual well being. The samurai's obsession with honor and reputation, while leading to extreme acts like seppuku, also highlights a powerful human need for dignity and respect. Though their methods were brutal, their underlying desire to live a life of integrity, to leave an unblemished legacy, resonates across cultures. It challenges us to consider our own definitions of honor and how we choose to live lives of purpose and integrity, albeit without the terrifying stakes of feudal Japan. As their era finally came to an end with the Meiji Restoration, the samurai class itself was abolished, their swords replaced by modern firearms, and their rigid social structure dismantled. Yet, their spirit, their discipline, and their pursuit of mastery continued to influence modern Japan, embedding values of dedication, perseverance, and respect that are still evident today. The echoes of their brutal social life, their unwavering will, and their search for meaning in a life defined by duty continue to shape our understanding of discipline and purpose. As the moon casts long, gentle shadows over the quiet temples and ancient castle ruins of Japan, the whispers of the samurai's brutal social life in peacetime begin to fade into the soft hum of history. The rustle of a meticulously tied obi, the silent glint of a sheathed katana, the quiet discipline of a warrior's breath, they all settle into a profound calm, leaving behind a legacy of iron will and tranquility forged on the sharpest of edges. May the enduring strength of their inner calm and the quiet lessons of their disciplined lives bring a sense of profound peace and restorative sleep to you tonight.